Okay, so in this video, we're going to look at the idea of creating a class in JavaScript. So all a class is a blueprint for an object. Okay, what an object is when you've actually used a class. So if we're going to create a building, I'm going to build a new garage in my back garden. I need to draw it out first and give it to the architect. The class is the idea of the drawing. The architect will then check it's all right, I guess. And then the builder goes ahead once that's been all ticked off. Now, there's no architect in this case, that will just be the compiler, but the programmer creates a class, defines what it's going to look like, the sizes, how it works. Is it going to be a normal door? Is it going to be a garage door, barn doors, whatever? Really interested in that there, haven't they? Talk about doors already. But then, once that's done, the builder needs to go and create it. So you create a class and then you instantiate it into an object, and that is you actually building that building. I'm going to flick over to a little animation I've got. It's nothing special, so don't get your hopes up. Just to go over in a little bit more detail the ins and outs of a class. So a class is basically a template for something you want to do. Now you can see on screen I've got a picture of a computer, a factory, and then you might be able to see a little bit of outline of a car. So you got to think, when a car's being developed, a new Tesla, a new Ford, whatever the car is, what those designers have got to do is give a rough idea of one, how it looks, what materials it's made out of, engine size, properties, how it can be customized, those kind of things. Once that's been ticked off and it's all ready to go, it then gets sent to the factory and gets made by whomever, right? That is exactly the same as a class. As the programmer, you will design a class, so design a template, like a blueprint for a house, car, boat, whatever it is. And then what you'll do is every time you want to use something, actually do something with it in your program, you will create what's called an instance of it. So we design a class, we define the class, we say what attributes there are. So attributes is a variable inside of the class itself. So it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a variable inside it, it's going to be an attribute, unless it's from an external parameter, of course. Then every time you use the class, actually do the method you've created and things like that, is what's called an object. An object is when you've instantiated the class. You've created an instance of that class. So my example here, I could create one blueprint of a car, and then what I can do is I can make as many of those cars as I want because I've got the blueprint. Same for like a house. If you know how to build a house or how to build a garage, you can build that garage as many times as you like because you've got the blueprint. You just follow the instructions, like flat pack furniture. So as you can see, I've got lots and lots of cars being made there. I could create a car class and I could create 50, 60 instances of it if I wanted to. You might use a class for a customer. Every time they sign up to your website, you create a new customer object. That's exactly how it's going to work. So we're going to switch over now to Replit. I'm going to show you how we can create and use a class. Okie dokie. Now we're going to start the idea of creating a class. Now I'll give you a little bit of a bigger screen today. How exciting. Mainly because in Replit, if we're going to create a class, we can make a class inside our script.js file. However, it does start getting really messy. I created a game the other day just for my students to sort of have a go at, and I did it all in one file because it was easier, and it became a right mess. What I need to go back and do is refactor all that code and just make it look a bit nicer. So we're going to go with this idea of a car. So we're going to create a new file. I'm going to call it car.js shock. And then I get this file here. Now it's really easy to make a class in JavaScript because all you do is write class like most languages and then car. You'll see what I've done there is I've capitalized the C. When we create a class, you don't have to, but it's always good practice just to give it a capital letter. Now, what we need now is a constructor function. Now, what a constructor is essentially, going back to that car analogy, when you go ahead and build, you instantiate the object, you actually make the car. You need to give it some instructions, what engine size is it going to be, what side of the road is it. Those little things that the technicians or the mechanics need to know before you go ahead and build it. So it's those sort of building blocks to get it started, really. Things like colour and things like that could be in there as well. But of course, you can set all these things later on. Now, there's a couple of ways you can create attributes, create variables inside. You can just go straight to the constructor. So constructor, like that. And honestly, we're pretty much done there already. Our class is sorted. But here you have some parameters. So we could say, I want to know the engine size, in engine size, and the color like that. Now those are our two parameters. It's more on that in a minute because we haven't used them yet. There's a couple of ways you can do attributes. So I could just do this dot engine equals in engine size like that, and this dot color equals in color. Now all we're saying is if we use this dot, this sort of means this object. So this object's in engine is the in engine size. This object's color is that in color. Now the reason why I've given these two different names, I could put engine and just put this dot engine equals engine. The programming language itself will know the difference. However, when I've looked at mark schemes for class definition, they like to have different names to these and these. So it's just good practice. Just call it in something, whatever it is. Now, alternatively, what I could do as well is at the moment, this is what's called a public attribute. So it means anybody can access this color and engine when I make it. So what I can do is let's just see it working first, and then we'll get into the private and public attributes. So what you've got to do as well is you just got to go ahead and just copy this and replace that with car. And then what I can do is go let C equals new car, that, and then let's do console.log C so I can see it. Now I have to put in whatever I've said here, so engine size and color. So let's go for the color can be red. Don't worry about color code or anything just yet. And let's say it's 1800 cc. So what I can do is I can run that now, and it won't do much. Quite often as well, you'll get car is not defined. Now, usually, if it does this, there's down to a couple of things. One, in our index, you haven't done this part, car.js. We have done that. So I can't have that problem. So we've got in color in engine here. Can't see anything particularly wrong.
A few moments later.
Yep, there we go. Now, I normally would, if I made a big mistake and I'd pause the video or do something like that, and I still might cut it out. It's a bit embarrassing. Now, the reason why I left it in, what you'll find is sometimes it can be really funny in Replit, or just in HTML, JavaScript, and CSS itself, the order of things. Now, the reason why it was freaking out a bit there was that the very first line of our script was looking for this car thing, and it was still sort of running the script. So sometimes just the order of these script SRCs can, fix a problem. So you see, I went, right, car's been called first, so I best go ahead and import that in there. So just sometimes be mindful of that, because it happens to the best of us. I'm not the perfect programmer. I'm not the best one in the world. And mistakes like this happen all the time. So please don't worry if that's the case. And we can see it's worked because we've got a car, and it says engine 1800, color red. I could make another one. So I could do let D equals new car. Let's say this is 2 litre. It's blue. Console.log D, and it should do exactly the same thing again. But it'll give us 2 cars, and one's going to be blue, one's going to be 2000. So that is making our class. We can make as many of these as we want. And it means like functionality like driving, changing the color, all these different things can all be kept inside this file in what's called a method. So yes, that's that. So we're going to look at now private attributes. Now at the moment, if I go into my script, what I can do is I can do c.color, and what I should do is tell us red. Just red there. d.color. Because those are public variables, I can access them from outside of the class. See, red and blue there. However, if I do this, and I go to my car, and I create them here and do hashtag engine, and hashtag color, like that, and then put a hash here, What I've done there is I've made that attribute is now private. If I run this code now, what you'll see is it'll say undefined twice. That's because I've hidden that from the public. So what you want to do is, especially in an exam question, what they'll ask you is create a fully encapsulated car object or whatever it is. Make a class for an object, for a building, it doesn't matter. What you need to do is do this hashtag thing. Now in the exam, I would recommend you just write the word, instead of writing hashtag engine, just write private engine, public engine, because as much as this is correct, it's completely 100% correct. If your examiner isn't a JavaScript programmer, doesn't understand that, doesn't know that, then it's not worth taking the risk. So just write private, or just comment next to it like I have there. If I want to keep this one public, there we go. Right, this in the exam, you're absolutely fine. Because we've got the different parameter names. We've got this dots, they're absolutely fine. And then we've got our private engine public color. So then if I run the program again, because I've made this one public again, what it should do is say red and blue again. But the engine size, if I do that, undefined again, because I've hidden it. So that's your encapsulation. Now what you're probably thinking is, well, what if you need to change that information? That's where the things called getters and setters come in. So in a class, I've already said we have attributes. We have public attributes, we have private attributes. Just to recap those, public can be accessed from anywhere, private can only be accessed inside the class. We've also got one called protected. I don't really use them, if I'm honest with you. So I think we'll cover them in a separate video. That's about inheritance and things. But you've got getters and setters. So methods are like the jobs we want to, the subroutines. We have functions and procedures already. Imagine a function and procedure inside a class is called a method. So what's good about JavaScript, you don't have to put function or procedure. I can just say get color and then get size. That's the engine size I'm talking about. So these would be functions in sort of real terms, because all I'm going to do is to return this dot color. Now I'm going to make these private again to prove a point, and then return this dot hashtag engine. Now what a getter does is it just retrieves that attribute and gives it back to the person. So if I did want to get the engine size, as I've already said, if I run this, it says undefined twice, then what I could do is c dot get color. And what I should do, it says undefined, I pointed something mildly wrong. So made a mistake there, didn't put the hashtag in there so it couldn't find it. So if I run this again, it says red. It's gone and got the color for us. So that's a getter function or a getter method. Now what you also want is a setter. So you do set color. Now your set methods will 9 times out of 10 have a parameter. Because all we're doing is the same as like the constructor. Just scroll down a little bit so you can see it all. So what I might do is do this dot hashtag color equals, and I'm going to put in C, Wincy Spider, is going to be the in color that I'm going to change it to. And then I'm going to put in E, then this dot hashtag engine size, I think I called it. No, just engine. Equals in E. Okay. So if I do c dot get color, I'm just going to get rid of d for now, I don't really care about him. And then do d dot set color green console dot log c dot get color. I just realised that I've made a mistake because I put d there instead of c, my bad. What should happen then is it says red, because C started off as red, so I got the colour and it said red. Then I set its colour to green, and then I got the colour again and it's green. So that's worked. So that's your getters and setters. So let's just recap really quickly. So you create a class by writing class and the name of the class. Use a capital letter for the name of that. If you want a private encapsulated attribute, so encapsulated meaning it's all self-contained in the class, you need to put a hashtag and create them at the top. If you're not bothered, you can just go straight into the constructor and just make your this dots. This dot means it's an attribute that's a part of the class. These are your parameters, and the constructor goes ahead and builds that object when you instantiate it, like I have here. Getters just return, like a function, just return an attribute that you want. You should have a get and a set for every single attribute unless you really don't need them. If you don't need to change the color ever, then don't put them in. But it's always good to. Then your sets are procedures inside a function that go ahead and change one of your attributes. They must have a parameter unless it's something like increment score, then it might do this dot hashtag score plus equals 1 is absolutely fine. But going back to exam questions, it's more than likely you're going to need some sort of parameters to change it with. That'll be on the mark scheme. But I'll look at written exam questions separately in a different video. That is just your simple. Wanted it for 10 minutes. I'm a little bit longer than I want it to be. Simple basics of how to create a class in JavaScript. So that's it really. So have a go yourselves. Make a car class. Make a shopping item class. Building class. It honestly doesn't matter. Characters. Anything doesn't matter. Just get into the habit of encapsulating using the hashes, making constructors, and then using that new keyword to instantiate your class and create a new instance of your object. Hopefully the sound was a bit better on this one. I've got a new microphone. I've switched to my primary monitor, so it's a little bit, hopefully a bit clearer. It looks clear on my preview, but you know, it could always change when I upload it. If you've got any questions, you're struggling to do something, please put it in a comment. I'll try and reply as best I can. Obviously, like and subscribe, of course, like every other YouTuber says. And any feedback, if you think I need to improve anything, just give me a shout. But I'll see you in the next video, guys.